Competition and Consumer Authority, Fair Markets, Empowered Consumers.
Competition and Consumer Authority, the CCA, is a parastatal under the Ministry of Trade and Entrepreneurship. We are responsible for implementing two pieces of legislation, the Competition Act of 2018 and the Consumer Protection Act of 2018. So our mandate under the two acts, starting with the Competition Act, is the prevention and redress for anti-competitive practices in the economy and the removal of constraints on the free play of competition in the market. In terms of the Consumer Protection Act, our mandate is to protect consumer rights by the tools that are available to us by means of investigation, to be precise, and as well as prohibition and control of unfair business practices. Now, if we were to start with our mandate as crisp as it is in the Competition Act, we actually investigate and control, four notions, if you will. And the Competition Act basically sets out the rules for the game. It says that as enterprises, as you jostle, you are rival for market share. You want to attract consumers, by your product offerings, the services that you provide. You must do so on the strength of the creativity of your business plan and the value additions that you have. You must not do certain conduct which is clearly set out. And we want to start by highlighting the first one, the first notion, being control and restriction on horizontal practices. Simply, companies or enterprises that are in the same market operate in the same value chain, that otherwise our competitors must not agree on the price that they are going to retail either their products or services, and they must not partition and carve out territories for themselves so that they avoid direct competition amongst themselves. This is prescribed in terms of Section 25 of the Competition Act, and these are the rules. When you retail, you trade, you must not do those. If you do those, then in terms of the tools and powers that we have under the authority, we'll be able to come into the market, because you are distorting the market. The market must be able to play itself out, because where companies are jostling for market share, there are the spin-offs, benefits that are directly attributable to the consumers. Lower prices, you can mention them, wider choice for goods and services, innovation, and productivity also. And the second one, second notion is we restrict and control vertical agreements. I think as it is, the vertical, just like the line. And companies, though operating in different value chain, that otherwise are not competitors, they must not enter into agreements where perhaps one has a vital input, essential input that is needed by others, so that they can trade and become the competitor to the one who owns that vital input. There must be certain structures that you must not do, like resale price maintenance as an example, and you must also not discriminate against your suppliers and say, I will treat company X differently to company Y. The rules say treat them equally, because what is important is the rule of competition as set out in the act. And I want to talk about the third one being dominance. Dominance itself is not prescribed by the law. And in terms of the law, if you have a market share of 25% in the market, you are dominant. And that comes with some semblance of responsibility. There are certain things that you must not do. That is what the law says. You must not tie and bundle as an example. Loyalty rebates as an example. Refusal to deal as an example. And if you engage in those conduct, because of the tools that we have in the law at our disposal, we'll come to you, investigate you, and then take you to the tribunal for an appropriate remedy. And the last notion that we also do in terms of the law is control and evaluation of measures. And measures, as we know, the genesis of competition policy and theory says that companies, when they realize that we can no longer do cartel conduct, which is agreement price fixing as an example, they then said, you know what, we can then combine and merge, and I think at the forefront of evaluating such transaction is to ensure that there are no concentration. Imagine if there are 3 suppliers, jostling, rivaling to attract customers. There'll be competition because consumer has 3 options in terms of choice, and those companies will be disciplining each and one another. Now imagine if they were to merge 3 to 1, there will be a monopoly. And we know the devastating effects of a monopoly, lack of innovation, acting to an appreciable extent without regard to what the consumers want, no innovation will die completely. And so that is not a pro-competitive environment that is ideal. So that is where we come in. The Competition Act simply lays the rules. Says if you want to go and trade, these are the rules. Akin to a football match, there are rules how the game should be played. And if you don't play it, we come in there as a referee. We have the powers at our disposal to then discipline you so that you act in terms of the rules, which is the Competition Act. Our mandate also includes us advising government, advisory services to government on whenever there's a policy or law that has been promulgated or envisioned or envisaged by the government. We also have a mandate to look at that policy or law, take our competition assessment tools, and then we advise the government on the actual, difficulties or envisioned or envisaged difficulties which that law policy may bring, under the sphere of competition. So this is quite a very important mandate because, as you know, the government machinery, how it operates, there are so many, policies and laws that are being done, and our role here is basically to take them, put them through the prism of competition assessment, then advise the government that there are certain pitfalls here, and this may distort or bring about some constraints on the free play of competition. Then we advise accordingly. So it's a very, very, very important mandate.
Competition and Consumer Authority. Fair markets, empowered consumers.